Hey yo, yeah, it's been a little bit since I got on here. Um, this whole week, yeah, it's been pretty much a washout. I worked Monday, funeral Tuesday, doctor's appointment Wednesday, Thursday worked, I don't know, 2/3 of a day. I milked the clock a little bit, scrubbing on my truck. I went and cleaned it really, really well. It's really pretty right now, for the most part, outside of needing a jackhammer on the upper deck. Yeah, it's about the dirtiest spot in my truck is the upper deck. And then Friday I worked about an hour and a half. Dispatch messaged me on my phone, said, go home. Everything's canceling. So I went ahead and clocked out and peace out. Um, Came home and didn't have a real plan of action, have no idea what I'm going to do. I was feeling puny pretty much all day Thursday. I'm still kind of emotional about losing my stepdad. He was just such a fucking cool guy. And even though I didn't talk to him every day, and even though I wasn't, at my mom's like every week and weekend and whatnot, just his absence is felt. It truly is felt. So, yeah, I haven't talked to her today. My goal today was to do an oil change on my motorcycle. And it's been on and off rain. And I need to be able to, well, I can warm it up in the garage and I don't care. But after I get done with the oil change, I need to take it out for a ride. Run it through all 6 gears and then put it to bed. Whatever. And I also have a little weird noise on it. I need to wash these. These are so dirty. But I use them as a headband 99% of the time, so I don't really care. Anyway, my tiara. Anyway, yeah, so I gotta do that. And it's just like, now that the rain has stopped, I have lost my motivation waiting for the rain to stop. And I am toasting my lost brethren and sisters from the military. I'll have to go on Facebook. Let me see if I can find one. Send it to myself. I know somebody, they all know I'm losing my mind. So, I've lost friends over the year on Facebook and I don't really care. But, if you don't get it, you don't get it, and I don't care. I am part of the 1-8 Cav alumni. And if you're not aware of who 1-8 Cav is, everybody has pride in their unit. However, Cav is a bunch of mean assholes. There is a content creator. He's got Facebook, but he's also Instagram. And I'm trying to not destroy this man's name, but if you get a chance to get on Facebook, look up this particular individual, only because he puts it out there. I can't. Austin Von Leitmann, Letkemann. And he goes on about some of the idiocracy, within the, military, army specifically. Some of the shit is stupid, that we had to put up with. But we all have a resiliency that is on a different level. There are some people who do not have a resiliency. They cannot bounce back. They cannot um beat it within within their head, get drunk, get just and move on. There are some people who can get over shit in a heartbeat. This is the mental health aspect of military veterans. Now, what I've experienced, and it's going on now 3 years since I started talking about this subject, psychology regarding narcissistic abuse and whatnot. Now, I'm going to branch a little bit, and I'm going to try to give you a comparison. Military people are narcissistic. It doesn't mean they're narcissists. However, there are a lot of military people who are narcissists. More of the grandiose capacity. Only because they seem to think their shit don't stink. Yeah, I was stationed with a few. I had one guy who's such an arrogant butthead that he didn't have enough knowledge, awareness, and observational capacity within his own. I was raised by a trucker to understand light discipline. Yeah, I had one of them fucking geniuses. He's a friend on my Facebook. Don't care. Yeah, he's an idiot. He's been divorced twice. Yeah. I was stationed with him with 1-8 and in Germany. So, this weekend is Memorial Day. The girl that was shot at Fort Hood, Francesca Velez, she was one of our fuelers. I was very familiar with her. She was an absolute darling and a very delightful person to be around. She was funny as hell. Yeah. Her loss tore our company apart emotionally. We were all like, fuck you. Anybody from another unit gave us, any kind of, lip, whatnot. We just looked at them like they had four heads and an antenna. You know what? I have heard taps far too many times in my life to account. I have a friend from Minnesota. Her dad and her mom are literally 2 minutes older than me. She was like my own daughter, like a little sister, kind of, a niece type of. That's how I thought of her. I was old enough to be her mother. Literally. She came into the military. She came to our unit. She was private. And she was so put together. Unbeknownst. The military, they care what you look like. They don't care what kind of brains you got. This girl had brains and she had no means of being able to put herself together. She had this thick, amazing red hair, and she did not know how to do her hair because she was a tomboy. She went and cut it. I was like, why? Anyway, there I was, because I had done the same stupid move, cut my hair off before going back in, and I struggled to keep it up and within reg and not getting yelled at, and yeah, so yeah. Anyway, her name was Molly. She was Literally, she's in the National Guard or Reserves. I can't remember exactly which one. Not like there's much difference. And she was out with her friends, and her sister was on her way to go pick her up, and she was standing on a street corner waiting for her sister to show up, and a couple of guys on sport bikes come riding by, and he weaved in and clipped her and shot her 30 feet in the air. She died on impact. Yeah. And she was a motorcycle rider. She had a Sportster. Beautiful bike. Absolutely beautiful bike. Her and her dad used to ride together. I had another friend in 2022. I remember the date, December 18th. They called him Beardo. Like, weirdo, Beardo. Because he had a beard when he got out. You know, grew this gargantuan beard. And he was so funny. He was such a good guy to be around. He was just so down to earth and just chill. He is part of the 22 a day. We have another guy. He was huge, Samoan, IED. Prior to me coming to that unit, he was very, honored and well-renowned. Big Samoan. Lost his life in combat during the Rustamaya adventure of 1-8 Cav. I'm giving you all these examples just to show you that, the memories. This is Memorial Day. And even though I never knew Sev, the tour that he lost his life on was, it was a fucking bloodbath. I can't put it any more plain. The stories that were told to me. The individual that I had dated for about 9 months of the one tour, yeah, he's a twisted fuck too. But he had given me he's twisted because of the combat. He literally, after they came back from that tour, he went AWOL for 386 days. 486 days. We were just about ready to deploy when they found him and picked him up. And I had to babysit his ass. Thanks, Tab. Anyway, turned into an intimate relationship. Thanks, Tab. It's his fault. Anyway, yeah, he could have stuck him with somebody else. Probably wouldn't have gone that direction. But anyway, now that I understand him, in respects to the trauma that he experienced, the stories that he told me are just like mind-blowing. And then when you go behind them and say, hey, he told me this. You were there. What happened? You get with the higher rank people. And you bring yourself to a point where you, just humble yourself. What fucking happened that day? And they'll tell you. And everything gets validated. So, yeah, the guy, yeah, he's got reason. He's a fucking whack job. A lot of therapy is going to be needed to fix that fucking shit. Anyway. Not to be cynical and arrogant, but the unit that I was with, they're mean. And that individual on Facebook, Austin, God, I can't, I'm a tart. And every time I go to look at stuff. I have the little badge thing for being one of his biggest fans, and now I can't find him. He's awesome. Where'd he go? There he is. Leckman. Austin von Leckman. Letkkemann. Yeah, he's great as far as, understanding the psychological crap that we put up with in the military. But there's a few other ones out there that I have followed along the way who explain the mental health aspects of military veterans who have endured combat and whatnot. And it is a kaleidoscope of issues. We suffer from depression mostly. Anxiety comes and goes. It's triggered. And the triggering is so indescript. You're like somewhat, you could literally like drive by a car accident and be like, damn, sucks to be you. Right? And then something else that doesn't even look comparable to that situation come up, and it just sends your ass into, you start going through flashback mode. I was at my appointment, and my doctor went and got like a nurse from whatever. And I asked her, I said, "Are you a psych nurse?" "Oh, no, I'm part of this PCMHI, group." I was like, "Oh, so your primary expertise isn't psychology or mental health or therapy or social work?" "Oh, no, I'm just here to do an evaluation." I was like, "Oh, okay, never mind. I'll shut up now." And like her jaw dropped. I was like, "Yeah, you don't get anything that I'm telling you." Yeah, I just wasted about 30 minutes of your time, and my own, for that matter. Do you need, do you need, help with, alcohol sensation? I was like, no. I'm trying to use alcohol as an example of what kind of medicinal therapy that I actually need in order for you to understand what triggers me, what doesn't, and what I do to self-medicate because I don't have medications to help me. "Oh, so you don't need AA?" I said, AA is worthless. "Oh." I said, "I don't require alcohol to wake up in the morning. I don't require someone to tell me you've had enough. I am fully aware of how much I drink, so I can tell you how much I actually drink. Whereas there are other people in this world who's like, I don't know how much I drink." I know how much I drink a week, and I know what sets it off, what triggers it, what triggers a craving. "Oh." I said, "Yeah. I don't need AA. I need a therapist." Who understands what I've gone through. And it's obvious you don't, because you're like forcing to hold back a yawn. Yeah, that's the problem we have with VA. When I'm sitting there looking at her and she's holding back a yawn, she don't really give a fucking rat's ass about what it is I'm talking about or how I'm explaining it. Yeah, veteran problems. Here we are, Memorial Day, talking it out. So, my dad passed away Saturday. It's been a week. And Tuesday was the funeral. And Wednesday was the appointment. Thursday I worked. Friday I got sent home early because of weather. And today I was off because of weather. Monday I'm off because of holiday. So I wanted to do an oil change on my motorcycle today. And I've been waiting for the weather to let up. I think it might have. About 3 deep. I'm going to go out to the garage here, now that it's not downpouring, and get all of the stuff ready. Get the oil out there. And get the oil pan, and get my torque wrench out of the bag, and get my 6mm and my sockets, and get everything ready to go so that I can do this oil change on this bike. And have it ready to go so by tomorrow I can do the oil change in roughly about an hour. Take it out, run it for a little bit, and then give it a park. Make sure everything gears in right. Get the ramps out. Head to O'Reilly's. Go grab all the stuff for an oil change. Grab the reservoir containers. And do the truck tomorrow. So yeah, that's my Memorial Day. My Memorial weekend typically consists of doing oil changes on all my shit. And if I have time, I'll probably do an oil change on my zero turn. Because, yeah. The lawn is almost 6 to 8 inches high. My neighbor is like, it's a good thing you have a zero turn. Yeah, I whack it at 6, knock it down. Then I come in and I go over it again at 4 inches. Then I go over it again at 2 inches. And then I go over it a fourth time at 1 inch. And pray to God we hit a drought and it kills the motherfucker. Because I hate mowing grass. The money that I've spent on maintaining all this shit, especially that fucking zero turn and the cost of the zero turn, I could have probably formed up this whole yard and had somebody come in and concrete the whole fucking thing. Wouldn't that be nice? So, point of my conversation today is psychology is completely different than mental health. There are people out there who were born normal, who have experienced some crap, trauma, abuse, blase, 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 and who have suffered extensive periods of time with depression, anxiety, stress, what have you, and have to learn the resiliency of being able to bounce back from this stuff. Or, if they're unable to bounce back, being able to endure, psychoanalyze, tolerate themselves, like me, because I don't bounce back easy. Work through the shadow work through the trauma to come out on top in the end. Sadly, I don't even want to bring this up because it's like, what the fuck, Chuck? We had a guy that worked in the company that does all of our maintenance. He committed suicide last year. And we were all like, and he was like kind of one of my favorite mechanics. He's the one that I like to talk to. He's the one I like to go to for all the shit that was wrong with my mixer. And I was like, I asked the head guy, what the fuck? He's like, we don't know. What? They choose what they choose, the way they choose it, when they choose it. You don't fucking know. You cannot tell. And unless they've talked to you and you can get a hint, a little hint, something's a problem, you don't know. I see a lot of shorts, like Beardo. We knew what his issues were. A lot of us were aware of a lot of the stress, you know, things regarding his daughter and a failed relationship and shit like that, right? But nobody knows what it was deep down that drove him to make that decision. Nobody. That's how badly the VA fails people. Now, he was eligible for VA. He was in VA. I know he was part of VA. Memorial Day is not only for those that we lost during combat, it is also for those that lost their battle with the aftermath and they were unable to get over that trauma. Some of it is trauma from combat. Some of it's trauma just internal, family oriented. It does not matter. Combat does something to your psyche that is the mental health aspects that the VA is not qualified. They are not fucking qualified. They are not qualified to be able to handle what a lot of veterans experience, not only on the combat experience end of things, but on the family aspects of things. There's a lot of people that go into the military because they can't stand their fucking families. And then when they get over to combat, they're dealing with an environment that is so hostile. Being in the military is hostile enough. And then you get over to combat, and then you got that hostility on top of your environment hostility, on top of the reason why you fucking left home hostility. And then you've got, if you're a male, you've got your baby mama hostility. I get it. That is why my mother is a busybody. She has the resiliency. She just keeps busy. I don't have that resiliency. I wallow. I sit in my thoughts and my emotions and my depression, and I endure and I feel it. She stays busy, ignores it. There's two type of people in this world. And we are literally textbook versions of them. I sit, I drink it off, I wallow, I become stagnant, atonic. She, 80 years old and has the energy of an adolescent child. Yet, mentally, she has not fixed herself. Give you an example of how fixing yourself looks. Family gatherings. I didn't mention my job. I didn't talk about my job. I didn't discuss, this, that, and the other thing about my occupation and what I do until my stepdad brought it up. When he asked. He wanted to hear about my day. That is, he wants to hear about everything I got going on in my job. He was so fucking proud of what I did for a living. He was so proud of me. That is why his loss is so painful for me. Because he's the only one who gave a fuck. Right? After his funeral, we went to my stepsister's house. We had food, the church prepared it. I said, nobody can diss the sis if anything's bad, because she didn't make it. This is all the church's fault. And she's like, thank you for that. I was like, I was just covering your ass. She just started laughing, right? I was like, church provided this. She didn't cook it. If there's anything you don't like, it ain't her fault. But he wasn't there to ask about my job. So therefore, I didn't talk about it. If you don't ask, I don't tell. My mother, she is such a busybody, she doesn't recognize that a lot of the conversation and things that she talks about, that people aren't asking for her fucking input. We're just trying to talk about, what happened to us, and wow, that shit sucks, or wow, I'm glad you came up on top on that one, and move on to something else. Nope, she got to add to it. Because she's not done the work. She's avoided it by distracting herself with being busy. I can't say that I've finished the work, but I've done a lot more with talking it out on here. And I have this one friend, and that's probably why it's gone so long, because I got that one friend. I can call her and be like, hey, I got a vent. And she'll be like, what's up, girl? You doing okay today? No, I'm fucking sucking. Let me tell you. Now, she is not living in the best of conditions, but she's making do. She's 100% disabled. She's pretty much agoraphobic. And I even told the lady that I was talking to, I said, I'm half agoraphobic. I don't want to leave my fucking house unless I absolutely fucking have to. She goes, yeah, we've been seeing that a lot with veterans lately. I was like, yeah, because we're sick of it. I'd rather be in a fucking combat zone. It's dirt roads. I know I'm not going to see a whole lot of civilian traffic out there. That kind of thing. It's Memorial Day. Monday. Yay! The sun's come out. I'm going to go out there and get everything prepared. Pray I get my oil changes done this weekend. Because, yeah, I've got the bike and the truck. And if I can squeeze it in, I'm going to do the mower. But, yeah, I don't want to bore you. But there's a great big difference between psychology and mental health. Psychology is a permanent problem. Mental health is a maintenance issue. And not everybody is able of doing it on their own. They need a little bit of guidance. We don't have a whole lot of mental health therapeutic people out there that understand little tricks of the trade and how to, remedy some of this. And not everybody has the same resiliency. I've lost too many people to, unaliving themselves because of temporary problems and exercising a permanent solution. And I've lost too many people to irresponsible civilians who think life is a joke. And I've lost too many people to irresponsible medical practitioners who don't go behind and read the fucking record. And I've lost too many people from having their own personal demons and feeling as though they have so much rage that they need to take out half of a fucking SRP facility. If you can't understand my reason for being Gnostic, I want you to remember one name, Francesca Velez. Because the man that killed her was a radical Muslim, conscientious objector with a psychology degree. Yeah, make it make sense. I'll wait. That is my update. Do not wish me happy Memorial Day. That is my rant. That is where I'm at. Beer 3. I'm probably cut myself off after this. I gotta go do an oil change. Sun's coming out. I might have an hour and a half. Gotta get on it. Peace.